Well. It's that magical time of day once more. Oh? Come closer, children, for I have a tale to share. A tale of trials and tribulations, of courage and perseverance that led to an ending. Well, I wouldn't want to spoil that now, would I? Let's just say our world would not be as it is today without the bravery of our main character. So, before I lull you to sleep with idle chatter, let us delve into this story. Once upon a time, in a land surrounded by grey dust clouds, dotted with rolling hills and vibrant meadows, a quaint little village resided. In that village, a community lived a life filled with joy and simplicity. The villagers, a diverse group of farmers, artisans, and merchants, shared a bond akin to that of a large extended family. In this village, there lived a boy. With bright eyes and a curious nature, he was appreciated by all, for he would often help the farmer with his agricultural duties, assist the blacksmith in forging tools, and spend afternoons with the village's wisest, soaking up stories of old. Yes, my dear children, this was a thriving community, and a happy one at that. But one day, this idyllic existence was shattered. An ominous darkness entered into the village in the form of a dark crystal that one of the miners took back from an ominous cave. A sinister curse, born of malice and ancient grievances, took hold. The air grew thick with despair, and an eerie silence replaced the melodic sounds of daily life. And as the curse tightened its grip, the villagers' dispositions changed almost as fast as their appearance. The children of the village grew pale, the color slowly draining from their hair, leaving it dull and ashen. Meanwhile, the men and women of age underwent a stranger transformation, turning into horned pigs. Though their forms were altered, they retained the ability to converse, albeit in a simple, stunted manner. Friendly conversations turned to harsh words, and acts of violence, unbeknownst to this community before, became a social standard. It was as if the very essence of the village had been poisoned, leaving its inhabitants hollow and joyless. Amidst this transformation, the boy remained unaffected by the curse. His heart, pure and untainted, resisted the malevolent force that had ensnared his friends and family. However, his immunity made him a target. The villagers, now consumed by hate and resentment, saw him as an anomaly, an outsider, an imposter. In a tragic twist of fate, the villagers decided to chase the boy, their faces twisted with anger and intent to harm. The boy, his heart pounding with fear, managed to escape just in time. He ran as fast as his little legs could carry him, the shouts of the villagers echoing behind him. Quieting down, he ran until his legs gave out, and with his last ounce of strength, he collapsed and passed out into a deep slumber. And so, his journey begins. Chapter 1. The Crystal Hollow. The boy awoke with a start, lying on a soft bed of glowing flowers. Their gentle light barely pushed back the surrounding darkness, an inky void so complete he wouldn't have seen his own hands without their glow. The air was cool, damp, and thick with an earthy scent. He shivered, but not from the chill, but from the oppressive silence pressing in from all sides. Then he saw them, faint emerald green specks shimmering in the distance, unmoving like eyes watching him. His heart pounded. Were they creatures? Spirits? He hesitated, then summoning courage, called out. His voice echoed through the cavern. Instantly, the green specks flared, igniting a brilliant glow that spread across the walls and ceiling. The once menacing darkness transformed into a breathtaking sight. Crystals of ruby red, sapphire blue, and golden yellow, casting a kaleidoscope of light. What he had mistaken for eyes were dazzling formations, their glow filling him with an unexpected sense of hope. faint grinding sound broke the spell of wonder. A click. He turned toward it and saw a sliver of light at the far end of the cave. A passageway had opened, spilling warm light onto the crystal floor. With renewed determination, he stepped forward, his path illuminated by the shimmering gems. As he reached the entrance, the warmth of the light contrasted with the cool cave behind him. He stole one last glance at the mesmerizing crystals before stepping through, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Chapter 2: Steampunk Forest. The boy stepped out of the glowing cave, expecting familiar woods and meadows. Instead, he was met with an uncanny sight. A forest stripped of its life, transformed into a labyrinth of iron and brass. Once lush trees were now towering metal constructs, their branches replaced by riveted plates. Enormous gears turned with slow precision, filling the air with a rhythmic, grinding symphony. Pipes snaked through the landscape, hissing steam and smoke, casting an industrial haze over the mechanical wilderness. The boy's heart sank as he realized the curse had spread far beyond his village. This forest, once a place of beauty and tranquility, had become a machinist's wildest steampunk dream, and a nightmare for anyone seeking to navigate its twisted paths. Cautiously, he stepped forward, his feet clanging against the metal ground. Strange creatures of oil and bolts emerged, their glowing eyes locking onto him, before attacking with mechanical precision. He dodged, weaving through their clanking limbs, striking precisely to dismantle them piece by piece. The forest fought back. Gaping chasms blocked his path, bridged only by massive, rotating gears. He took a deep breath, timed his jumps, and leapt from one to the next. The gears groaned under his weight, but held firm, carrying him safely across. Obstacle after obstacle, the forest tested him, but he pressed on. determined to break the curse. Then, at last, a break in the metallic foliage. The exit. Emerging from the steampunk forest, the boy found himself at the edge of this mechanical biome, though he wasn't quite prepared for the jarring transition that the landscape decided to throw at him. Chapter 3. The Deserted Beach. The boy stepped onto soft sand, expecting the cool touch of the sea breeze. But something was wrong. The horizon shimmered unnaturally. He took a few more steps and realization struck. There was no ocean. Everything from the waves to the rippling surface was made of sand. Golden dunes stretched endlessly, broken only by patches of shifting blue sand, undulating like water. A desert disguised as a beach. His heart sank, but he pressed on. In the distance, the silhouette of his village flickered. Scattered patches of green and yellow sand stood out against the illusionary ocean. Oases marking a possible path forward. Carefully, he stepped between the stable patches, avoiding the volatile blue sand that sometimes lay still, sometimes churned unpredictably. Timing was everything. Reaching the first oasis, he drank deeply from a pool of clear water. Its coolness a rare relief. He rested briefly before moving on. The journey to the second oasis was more treacherous. The blue sand seemed to sense him, churning violently as he neared. He sprinted, leaping across unstable ground, narrowly avoiding being swallowed by the shifting dunes. His heart pounded. His breath came in ragged gasps, but his determination never wavered, for he was now in the heart of the deserted beach. The final stretch was the hardest. The blue sand raged like a stormy sea, the dunes rising and falling chaotically. The boy pushed himself to the limit, his legs burning and his lungs gasping for air. With a last desperate leap, he cleared the final wave of blue sand and stumbled into the safety of of the last oasis. Gasping and covered in sweat, he looked around. The landscape beyond the oasis was different. A hint of green soothed his troubled mind. Finally, a promise of normalcy. He had made it through the deserted beach, the false ocean of sand. With renewed hope, he took a deep breath and moved forward, ready for whatever lay ahead. Chapter 4: Ocean Reef. As the boy glanced back at the desert, a gasp escaped him. It was gone. In its place, a vast, shimmering ocean stretched to the horizon. Waves lapped gently where dunes had once stood. Before he could fully process the transformation, the ground beneath him shifted, pulling him downward. Panic flared, but as he sank beneath the surface, a strange calm took hold. He could breathe. Drifting to the ocean floor, he found himself in a world untouched by the curse. Vibrant coral reefs sprawled in every direction, glowing with radiant hues. Schools of fish, shimmering like scattered jewels, wove intricate patterns around him. Sea plants swayed to an unseen rhythm, their gentle motion mirroring the ebb and flow of the current. Walking, running, even leaping across the seabed felt natural, as if gravity itself had softened in this dreamlike expanse. His path was an intricate maze of coral and rock formations, demanding careful navigation. Curious sea creatures observed him, some playful, others territorial. He dodged and countered their advances with swift precision, each encounter a test of his growing resolve. But our hero did not seem to mind, for he felt at peace deep down where the curse had no reach. As the boy ventured further, the water grew darker, and an overwhelming sense of a larger presence loomed. From the abyss, enormous tentacles erupted, coiling and thrashing with terrifying force. Each one, thick as a tree trunk, moved with an eerie grace, smashing into the ocean floor and sweeping through the water in powerful arcs. The boy's pulse quickened, but he stayed light on his feet, weaving through the chaos. The creature wasn't attacking him, just moving instinctively, and that was his advantage. He studied the rhythm, the patterns. With each daring leap and precise dash, he slipped through openings, dancing past the monstrous limbs. The deeper he ventured, the more confident he became. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the thrashing ceased. The tentacles retracted into the shadows, and the water brightened once more. Breathless but victorious, the boy pressed on. The seabed sloping upward, the surface drawing near, and with it a familiar weight returned, the curse creeping back into his heart. Still, he would not stop. Not now. Not ever. Chapter 5. Spicy Glacier. As the boy climbed from the ocean's depths, the water's warmth faded, replaced by a biting chill. When he finally emerged, he found himself standing on an endless sheet of ice, the air sharp against his skin. But this was no ordinary glacier. Scattered across the frozen expanse were enormous peppers, some smoldering, others cooled to charcoal black. Their reds, oranges, and yellows burned against the ice, a surreal contrast of fire and frost. Then, as if the sky itself had joined the madness, smaller peppers rained down like falling embers, warm to the touch, but harmless. He marveled at the bizarre sight, but his instincts kept him wary. The land was cursed. Beauty and danger walked hand in hand, and beneath the ice, something moved. A shadow, glowing faintly, slithered just below the surface, and the ground trembled beneath his feet. Then, from beneath the ice, the shadow lunged. A violent tremor split the ground, sending jagged icicles skyward. The boy leapt just in time, landing on a cooled pepper as shards of ice scattered behind him with a shrieking crack. Realization hit. These fiery islands were his only refuge. He sprinted across the glacier, leaping from pepper to pepper as the shadow pursued, each quake threatening to drag him under. Then ahead, he saw a patch of solid green land, a way out. Relief flickered for a moment, then the ice erupted. A monstrous fish erupted from beneath the ice, its scales glowing with an eerie light, the shadow that had been stalking our hero all along. The hero turned and ran, a surge of shame flooding him as he longed for the ocean's warmth. Yet there was no other choice. The ground shook beneath his feet. The ocean was close. Just a few more steps. But the fish was faster. Its movement a blur of monstrous speed. With a deafening roar, it lunged, its colossal jaws snapping shut around the boy. He felt the ice vanish beneath him as he was ripped from the ground, the world spinning violently. The creature's jaws clamped down, and in a nightmarish moment, he was swallowed whole, the darkness closing in around him like a tomb. Chapter 6. The Mysterious Shopkeeper. One moment there was only silence and stillness. Then, with a jolt, the boy realized he was still alive, trapped inside the belly of the beast that deemed our hero as an afternoon snack. The air was thick and humid, and he could hear the slow rhythmic beating of the creature's heart. The only light seeped in from an unseen opening high above, casting a dim glow that barely illuminated the vast, cavernous space around him. Determined, he pressed forward, navigating the strange tunnels of flesh and sinew. The walls glowed with patches of bioluminescent algae, illuminating twisted pathways that pulsed with life. The distant rhythmic beat of the creature's heart guided his steps, each thud a grim reminder of where he was. After what felt like hours, a warm light flickered ahead. As he approached, the surreal sight of a small shop revealed itself, a wooden counter, shelves packed with peculiar trinkets, and at the center, an elderly woman calmly knitting. She acknowledged him as if he were just another passing traveler, unfazed by the impossibility of her existence here. Without a single word, the boy made his confusion clear. She simply smiled, speaking in riddles about lost souls and how the world often felt like a puzzle without all of its pieces. If he wished to find his way, she said, he would need to watch the shadows dance in the moonlight and follow the silver thread. The meaning was unclear, but something about her tone made him believe it would matter. Time lost meaning as the boy listened, drawn into the woman's strange and winding tales. Hours could have passed, or mere moments, he couldn't tell. Though cryptic, her words carried a weight that settled deep in his mind, as if each story held a hidden key. Then, without warning, she paused. A knowing smile crossed her face as she simply raised a finger, pointing toward the unseen sky. And before he could react, the ground trembled beneath him. A force, ancient and undeniable, seized him. In an instant, he was launched upward, hurtling through the creature's insides at dizzying speed. The walls blurred past in a rush of motion, the rhythmic heartbeat fading as he shot toward the distant glow above. And with a final surge, he was expelled from the blowhole in a violent burst of water, soaring into the open air. The world twisted and turned as he fell, the woman's cryptic words still lingering in his mind, waiting to unravel their meaning. Chapter 7. Return to the Cursed Village. The boy landed with a soft thud. Flowers cushioned his fall, but they were withered, their color drained. The air, once crisp with the scent of home, reeked of smoke and metal. As he sat up, his heart clenched. His village had become an unrecognizable fortress, its warmth replaced by cold stone and iron. The streets were patrolled by those he once knew, their faces hollow, their movements mechanical. The curse had twisted them beyond recognition. He searched desperately for a way in, but the walls stood impenetrable. Hope dwindled until, at midnight, the full moon bathed the village in silver light. And then he saw them, threads of pale light, invisible before, stretched from the moon's glow, weaving through the air. They led his gaze to a concealed grate in the mountainside. His fingers worked quickly, prying it open. He slipped inside, and through winding tunnels, he emerged in the heart of the village. Smoke choked the air. Machines groaned where gardens once bloomed. His people, trapped in the curse's grip, wandered aimlessly, and at the center of it all, its pulse dark and menacing, stood the source. A crystal lodged in a grotesque monument of metal and stone radiated its malevolence. He stepped closer, the crystal's power curling around him, pressing into his thoughts, luring him in with whispered promises. His limbs felt heavy, his mind clouded, the pull almost too strong to resist, but he clung to something even stronger. The scent of morning bread, the crackle of a fire, the laughter of friends, the love that bound his village together. These were not just memories, they were his truth, his anchor. No darkness could ever take that from him. With renewed strength, he reached out, his fingers brushing the crystal's surface. Then a sharp pain shot through his arm, as if the crystal fought to resist him, but he did not pull away. Instead, he pressed forward, pouring every ounce of love, hope, and defiance into it. Then the crystal trembled, its once solid form splintering, fractures spreading like veins of light. Then, with a deafening crack, it shattered. A shockwave of blinding radiance erupted from its core, rushing outward in a cascade of light. The iron walls groaned and split, peeling away like brittle leaves in the wind. Machinery ground to a halt. The thick, choking smog lifted, revealing the sky for the first time in what felt like an eternity. The villagers staggered, trembling as the darkness faded from their eyes. For a moment they stood still, as if waking from a terrible, terrible dream. Then recognition hit. First confusion, then relief. Tears fell, laughter broke the silence, and voices rose in joyful disbelief. They turned to him, their hero, the boy who had defied the darkness. One by one, they called his name, until the whole village chanted in unison. Hands lifted him onto strong shoulders, and he looked around at all the faces he had fought for, now alive once more, and the village was free. The village buzzed with the sounds of life returning to normal. Children laughed and played in the streets, and the smell of fresh baked bread wafted from open windows. Villagers gathered in small groups, discussing the events of the past and their hopes for the future. As they spoke, the hero of the hour walked quietly through the village, a content smile on his face. The villagers greeted him with warm smiles and grateful nods, their eyes reflecting the newfound peace and happiness that had returned to their lives. The boy made his way to his house, his heart swelling with pride and relief. He opened the door and stepped inside, the familiar scent of home enveloping him. He climbed the stairs to his bedroom, his steps light and unburdened. Exhausted from his journey, he slipped into bed, feeling the comforting embrace of his blankets. His eyes closed almost instantly, sleep claiming him as soon as his head touched the pillow. Outside his window, the village square stood as a testament to his bravery. The dark crystal, once a symbol of despair, had been shattered, and its remnants had turned into fine dust particles. These particles, shimmering faintly in the moonlight, drifted high above the village, carried by a gentle breeze. The dust floated toward the grey mist that surrounded the entire landscape, navigating with purpose toward a specific section behind the crystal hollow. As they swirled and gathered, they formed a small glowing hole in the mist. The light from within the hole was faint, but it hinted at something beyond, a new mystery waiting to be uncovered.